Chris Speaks here tonight with Robert McCollum, the boy wonder of Alabama politics, who finished second the other night in the PSC race, almost upsetting two-term incumbent Chip Beeker, which no one's seen coming. I know you're riding high on that right there. Robert, how are you tonight, man?
I'm doing great. Not really celebrating. We got 3 more weeks to go. We're still working very, very hard. We're feeling optimistic, but don't ever get your hopes up because it could go either way. But we're praying, doing the best we can, just celebrating this weekend, giving thanks to our veterans for Memorial Day and what they do for us.
So, Robert, you're only 23 years old. Tell me a little bit about your background. I know there's going to be a lot of history there. What have you done up until you got in this race?
Well, I spent the last 3 years in business for myself. We had 3 different businesses. One was a construction business where we specialized in excavating, dirt work, large-scale clearings for developments. And we was involved in trucking, ran a dump truck, delivered gravel. And I was also in the truck rental business at the same time and the vending machine business. And let me tell you, that's one of the best businesses to get into.
Really? I've heard people make some good money off of that.
It's great money. Just think if you're in a bind and you need $40 or $50 and you own the vending machine sitting right outside the barbershop, just ride by, grab $40 and go.
So, from what you're telling me, it seems like you're not a stranger to hard work, get in there and get stuff done.
Oh, I'm not. I plan on when I come to work, if the great people of Alabama elect me, I plan on coming to work in blue jeans and boots, ready to go to work. And if the PSC will let me, which I'm sure, I'll be one of the commissioners, they can't really tell me no.
So what makes a 23-year-old young man want to go be a public service commissioner?
Well, ask yourself this. It is time to return government to by the people, for the people, and of the people, and stop this government by self-interest and glorified bribe.
Self-interest and glorified bribe. So what's the PSC doing? How are they serving their self-interest? I keep hearing about this hidden tax. What exactly is that?
Well, they try to paint it as a good thing. Well, they give so much money back to the general fund. They don't give it back because it's not their money to start with. It is the ratepayers' money. And it's all involved, as Brent Woodall said, in a bunch of legal talk that they're not calling it a tax, but in reality it is a tax.
So from what my understanding is, if I'm wrong, they charge the regulatory companies for the privilege of regulating them, and they're basically overcharging them. And then at the end, Twinkle Kavanaugh saying, "Look, we have $12 million back to the general fund," when they never really got it from the general fund to begin with. They got it from the ratepayers.
Right. And Chip
Beeker, that money should go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Chip Beeker even made that statement out of his own mouth that they do. He admitted to the hidden tax. They do give. It is the hidden tax. It is there. He said it out of his own mouth.
So they're taking this money, and they're claiming that, and they're going building pet projects in districts to help their buddies in the legislature. Probably some of it in North Alabama, which falls under the TVA stuff that people will never see. Does that sound right?
These pet projects that people will never see and it'll never benefit them whatsoever, and then they're using $219,000 over the previous year in out-of-state travels as well as in-state travels.
They spent $219,000 of this ratepayer money that they got through this hidden tax to travel around the state and out of state?
Yep.
Where are they going?
My understanding is Gulf Shores and Orange Beach and all different areas around the state. They're going there with their staff, and then they're staying in these luxury hotels, nice dinners, And my question is, what are the ratepayers doing paying for that when they're already paying for state gas for them to ride around in a state paid for vehicle, both of which is paid for out of taxpayer dollars, and they make over $100,000 a year, also paid for out of taxpayer dollars? What are they doing taking this money and going on vacation with it for?
So let me just get this straight. Everybody understands. So they're using our dime through these rate hidden tax to go on vacation for supposedly for work, taking their staffs with them, laying up in these hotels, going on the beach, going to dinner, driving around a state car, state cell phone, and we're paying for it.
Yep.
So, I mean, some families can't even afford to go on a vacation a year, and they're going and laid up on Orange Beach.
They're just living it up, and heck, they're not even having to spend that $100,000 a year salary because, I mean, everything's getting paid for out of the ratepayer's pocket. I mean, it's the best deal in the world for them.
No, I didn't even think about it. You said so. They don't even have to spend their money that we're paying them to go on this. We're having to fund it, and they're just living it up out there. I mean, that should just enrage the taxpayers out there while they're paying, what is it, the second highest utility rates in the nation?
In the nation.
Wow. Do they have any excuse for this, or do they just play it off, ignore it? I mean, what are they saying?
Well, when you bring up hidden tax, it's either not true or they don't want to talk about it or the subject's brushed off altogether. They want to brag about how much money they've given to the general fund, which, of course, they didn't because it's the ratepayers' money to begin with. But when you bring up hidden tax or why didn't you give this back to the legislature, no, they don't want to talk about it.
What you mean? Why did they give it back to the ratepayer? Right?
Why give it back to the ratepayer? Yes.
That is just nice. So I've also read that Commissioner Beeker son worked for the power company. Is that correct?
Yes, that's 100%. Well, not for the power company per se, for a staffing company that does majority of their business with Southern Company, which, as you know, is Alabama Power's parent company.
Wow. And then didn't he get a job even higher than the USDA or something?
USDA, State Director of USDA Rural Development. And that is a presidential appointment. You have to know somebody pretty high up on the totem pole to get that position.
Yeah, I would say so. You'd have to be some pretty high connections there. And Commissioner Beeker, I was reading where he had tried to lease out land to Alabama Power for
to
I'm
make
sorry, go ahead and tell me.
it was a company that was going to wanted to put solar power in on it, build a solar farm on his land, and then sell the power to Alabama Power. The conflict there, you might ask, what is the conflict? Well, the Public Service Commission regulates Alabama Power, and he sits on the Public Service Commission.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
And it was going to be leased at $500 an acre, total of 451 acres over a 25-year period, which would have given him roughly a little over $5 million profit.
$500 an acre each month over 25 years is what he was going to profit from his office. Now, and these are also the same people that he voted for a rate increase for the handful of people who use solar power, correct? About 29,000 people he raised taxes on doing that?
Mm-hmm. My opinion is, it sounds to me, and you'll probably agree with me here, it sounds to me like he's only against solar and this goes back to everything, he's only against something when it does not benefit him.
Sounds exactly like it. And, how are you taxing people for the sun rising and setting each day?
Yeah, I don't understand that neither. I mean, you can't.
So,
I think the government is going to find a way to try to tax you for whatever they can find. I think the only thing you are not taxed on is getting up out of bed every morning.
I mean, this is just, appalling to think about what he's doing. And then I read where, and I'm, for the life of me, I can understand how this is not being looked at, where the man, he operates catfish farms and cattle, and he just got $95,000 forgiven in payroll protection program loans, and then turned around and got another $95,000, and shortly after that, loaned his campaign $100,000. I wonder where that money came from.
Well, I mean, if you go back and look at it, $95,000 in SBA forgiveness loans, and then he had to come off with $5,000 of his own money. But
yeah. And I don't know about you, but every time I've driven around, I've never seen a bunch of people at a catfish farm working or, with cattle. So, I mean, how many employees did he have to pay besides himself?
Well, I'm thinking at most, I mean, roughly, I mean, if you ride down in Auburn and look at the Auburn fisheries, you see maybe 5 people out there working at the most.
So he's now taking our money, not only to go on vacations, but now to fund his campaign for another $100,000 a year job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is this? I mean, other corruption I've read about, Commissioner Beeker, his son had a small company and now it's turned into a multi-million real estate deal. Did I get that right? Or
yeah, it's odd. And from what I'm reading, the people that stay in these buildings that they own, I mean, from what I found and what I've read, the service is poor, the roach infestation is horrible, it is nasty. I mean, I don't know what's going on there, but I mean, I think if you go from owning a staffing company to a multi-million-dollar property company, I mean, the least you could do is make sure your guests were staying in a nice place.
And something that I find odd with the Public Service Commission and all these places or offices like that, people shooting guns, and don't get me wrong, I'm a big Second Amendment person, but shooting guns, and him saying he's fighting the liberal Biden agenda. What's he fighting? What's he fighting Biden for?
Well, it's surely not the Biden agenda and the liberal agenda when he's taking money from George Soros.
George Soros?
George Soros. Yes.
So we have a Republican commissioner taking money from George Soros.
Well, let me stop you there. When you said Republican, I mean, I don't believe that is you can call that a Republican, especially considering that he wasn't really a Republican commissioner in Greene County. When he switched to the Republican Party was when he decided he wanted to run for the Public Service Commission.
So then, in essence, this man has been a Democrat in his whole life, has now switched to the Republican Party to get elected for personal gain, and is taking money from George Soros to fund his campaign. Is that summing up?
$27,000 to be exact.
Wow. I mean, I'm speechless. This man was a Democrat for his whole life, it sounds like, till he ran for Public Service Commission. Now taking money from George Soros to fund his campaign on top of the $100,000 he's getting from the taxpayers, using his son for work at the power company, and his other son's getting loans to buy up real estate. What rampant corruption. I mean, I wonder how this guy's going to plead.
Yeah, I'll have to ask you this. It would probably be guilty or not guilty.
I mean, I've been following politics a long time. I don't know if I've ever seen anything this blatant as the corruption that's coming out of I'm sure all three of them, but especially Chip Beeker.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at his 2014 campaign up to this point, it has been pretty much all about seeing how bad he can destroy the other person. Portraying Terry Dunn as a liberal environmentalist Democrat and just ruining this man's reputation across the state. I mean, it is shameful, and we don't need somebody with a maturity level like that in the Public Service Commission.
Well, didn't they bring in their henchmen to run that campaign, like Haley Barbour and other people from Alabama Power?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Why is that? Why has nobody investigated that whatsoever? Because you're not supposed to have anything to do whatsoever with Alabama Power. Now I'll just hit on this for a minute. If you look at 2022 donors, $10,000 come from the company that sells Alabama Power's fleet when they're done with them. And another, I don't know the exact amount, but another donation come from a coal company that sells coal to Alabama Power's coal plant. And then another donation came from a company whose president supports all Alabama Power decisions.
Talk about bought and paid for.
You ever heard the saying "sold to the highest bidder"?
Yeah, it sounds like they are. And I mean, the attack Commissioner Dunn, I think Robin Lonaker for their money, and then he's taking money from George Soros, and then the people who are paying for him.
Well, let me say this about Robin. I've enjoyed getting to know Robin on this campaign. She ran a great campaign. She brought a lot of attention to some issues going on at the Public Service Commission. She got them to the forefront, and we have a real opportunity to do some good here. And let's hammer this home. And I'd like to see Robin remain in politics for the foreseeable future.
This sounds just like a den of thieves that hopefully the voters are paying attention to, because this is something that has to stop. Especially, I mean, people are paying more just to live, and they're living it up on their dollar. I mean, this is a den of thieves.
And you have to ask yourself this: what are we doing? Why can't we work to bring utility rates down in a time where we've got 70% inflation? We've got almost $5 a gallon gas. Well, over $5 if you drive a diesel vehicle. Why can't we get rid of this hidden tax, get some money back to the ratepayers to help them out in these times?
I mean, because I may have asked this earlier. I can't remember. Alabama is the second highest in the nation as far as utility, right?
Yes.
And we're 50th in everything else. They're charging us second highest rate. I mean, this is criminal what's going on down there. And looks like as long as it's benefiting Commissioner Beeker, then he's all for it.
Yep, no doubt about it.
Robert, anything else the people should know? I mean, because we've covered so much here.
Well, I mean, I want to hit on this for a minute. I'm not.
Yeah, if it hit on it, let them have it.
I'm not a tree hugger by no means, and I'm waiting on, because I know I'm going to get called a tree hugger. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get called a tree hugger when what I did for a living was take trees down, do large scale clearing and dirt work. But this dumping of coal ash into the rivers in the state of Alabama, it's got to stop. I mean, it's got to stop. We have to find a more.
Tons they have dropped in the Coosa River, 22 million. Can you imagine how much that is? Of ash, 22 million tons.
And that is a lot. And I mean, I'm sure you're like me. I love my fishing. I love going swimming. And when I go fishing and when I catch a fish, I'd like to know when I clean and cook that fish that I can eat it without having to worry about getting salmonella poisoning.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they've made this, term, and I guess put it, liberal environmentalists, conservationists. They've turned that into such uh, bell and whistle, words that, oh my God, this person is going to try to stop all construction. They're going to have us driving around in vehicles without gasoline, and that's just simply not true. I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting a clean river. There's nothing wrong with not dumping trash all through it.
Right. And
it's okay.
I'm interested to see how they're going to go about portraying me as a liberal environmentalist. I mean, I don't think it's going to be easy to do, considering what I did was clear land for a living.
I think whatever they do, I would just stay on message with these people. I mean, and hopefully enough people will get it out of what they're doing. I mean, this is, because if it's going to be, Alabama has the number one hunting and fishing out there, and it's going to be destroyed for future generations. I mean, they're not going to be able to go catch a fish like you said and clean it and fry it up and eat it right there, or go swimming in the river. And not only that, when and this will be sounding like a tree hugger, but when you start killing off different species in the water, there's a whole chain reaction there. One species, another, we're gonna lose our wildlife.
Right. And that, that's what Alabama's known for, is our wildlife.
Right. And, we don't want to lose that because we're letting Alabama Power dump millions of coal dust in the river. I mean, you can't tell me there's someplace else they can put this.
Right.
And I'm sure you're like me. I'm not against coal. I'm not against using coal as energy. I mean, there's some good paying jobs out there.
No, and something I want to do, and I'll promise the voters I will do. I'll protect your coal jobs. I'll protect your nuclear jobs, and I'll protect your hydroelectric jobs.
Well, while we're talking about that right there, was just a while ago. I mean, is there any? We hear it all the time, different stuff like the different types of energy. Is there anything out there that can be done, like using solar energy and wind energy? Does that even produce anything much? I mean, because obviously it can't just say. But I see people talking about that all the time. I know one of the candidates, McLam, brought that up.
Well, if you go back and look at the cost of solar and the cost of implementing solar, ultimately, it will cost one big bulk up front, but it'll take you years before you start saving money on it. Now, that is my opinion on it.
And is there even enough to use? I mean, to